Hi, everyone. My name is Drew. I'm the community manager here at the National Guild for Community Arts Education. And today I'm joined by Mike Adam Smith, who's our communications manager.
Hello, everyone.
And Heather Eichmeyer, who's our chief program officer.
Hello.
So before we get started, I'm just going to give a brief tech run through of Zoom, the platform that we're going to use today to have our conversation. So you all, if you shared your video, we can see your video, we muted everyone upon entry just to make it a little bit easier to hear. But if you do want to ask a question during the presentation or say anything to anyone else, feel free to unmute yourself. To do that, you're going to go to the bottom left and you can toggle the mute or unmute. You can also start or stop your video with that button to the right of that. And then you'll see on the bottom in the center, there's an icon for the chat. So this is a way, as we're having the conversation, if you wanted to ask a question but didn't want to interrupt the flow, you can ask it in the chat and we'll get to it as we go. And also, I want to also point out that if you want to change your name, you can see that there's a little name in the bottom left corner. You can right-click on that and rename yourself, and that way we know your name and also what organization you're affiliated with, and that'll help us as we have the conversation. So I think that's it. If there are any more questions, I'm going to kick it over to Heather, who's going to start us off.
Great. Thanks so much, Drew, and thanks to all of you for joining us today. We're really going to spend an hour with you, maybe less, just talking through a little bit about the Guild, who our members are, the type of work that we do and why we do it, and then spending the bulk of the time together walking through some of the resources that you can find on our website and different ways that you can engage with us and with the membership. And then we'll leave ample time for questions at the end. So let's dive right in. McAdam is going to pull up our first slide.
Yeah.
So the Guild has been around since 1937, and we were really born out of the settlement house movement, where settlement houses around the country were focused on providing high-quality arts learning experiences to communities, largely immigrant communities at the time. And so those values of quality, accessibility, and accountability are really at the core of all of the work that we continue to do now 80 years later. Our mission is to support and advance lifelong learning opportunities in the arts. So we're both focused on building the capacity of organizations as well as advancing the field and really creating systemic change that allows for more access to these robust programs that you are leading day in and day out. And we do that in three core ways. So we are focused on, in order to ensure that all people have opportunities to maximize their creative potential, we believe that we need to have strong leaders who are able to bring their teams together to move people and organizations forward to have greater impact in their communities. So we focus on developing leaders, in strengthening those organizations. So not only do we work with, the directors of organizations, but really their whole team. So when your organization joins the Guild, not only do the executive staff have access to our benefits, but so do your faculty, your teaching artists, your trustees. So really looking at how do we build the capacity at all levels within an institution, as well as connect you to partners within your community. And then finally, in addition to building the capacity of leaders and organizations, we really focus on working in concert with our members to advocate for community arts education. And we work with a variety of stakeholders as well as our members to do this at the local, regional, and national levels. So moving on to the next slide here, there are two core objectives of our work. And as I said, we work very, very closely with our members to guide our work. And we also work with a broad range of stakeholders, researchers, funders, and other national associations and organizations to move the work forward. And probably the bulk of our work is really on building the capacity of your organization. So we do that so that you can deliver sustainable and equitable programming, so that you have greater financial support. So we're looking at where does funding flow and how can you get the information and training that you need to make partnerships in your community with other institutions and with funders, and then again to contribute to systemic change. And then finally, we work in a number of partnerships ourselves to support the field and support investment in the field more broadly. So a little bit about us. I said that we've been around for 80 years. This is our 80th anniversary. And our members are primarily tax-exempt community-based institutions, as well as government agencies or divisions thereof. So some of our institutions are independent organizations. Some of our members are like an arts education division of a museum or a performing arts organization. We'll get into one of the things I just want to clarify up front is our due structure is based on a sliding scale based on your current year operating expenses. So if you are leading a division of a larger parent organization, we base your dues on the divisional budget, not the budget of the parent institution. And that's often a question that we receive. And it's the division that's really the member of the institution as part of that larger parent organization. As I'm sure you know, the goal here is not to necessarily turn out the next Beyonce or professional artist. It's really to engender a lifelong love of the arts and really to unlock the creative potential of all people. We truly believe all people and all communities have creative potential, and that the work that you're doing is really allowing them to thrive and to unlock that potential. So a little bit about our members. We are primarily an organizational membership association. Our members offer a multitude of disciplines, so theater, visual arts, music, literary arts, media arts, etc. They're located in almost all 50 states. And here's just a view of the types of institutions that we serve. The Guild's history came out of primarily serving community schools of the arts, but we have since, particularly in the past 2 decades, really diversified the scope of our membership to include a range of institutions that you see here. And as I mentioned earlier, many, many divisions of larger parent organizations as well. And we see real fruits in this. There's a great source of inspiration and source of a wealth of knowledge, I think, in this community that comes from the cross-pollination of ideas of all these different different types of institutions, organizations located all over the country. And in a minute, Drew's going to talk about what we do to also complement that sort of big tent by providing opportunities for our members to also network with organizations that are focused in their specific discipline areas, programmatic areas, etc. So we'll get into that in just a moment. And as I said, we really do see the Guild's membership as a learning community. Our national office is based in New York City. There are roughly about 10 full-time staff people, but the field is really you all. And so we work very closely in concert with our members and create opportunities for knowledge sharing, resource sharing, and support. And every other year we do a membership survey, and I would say almost every time when we ask people where they find the most benefit of joining the Guild, it is really in that support network. Often I think when we're working so close to the ground and in communities all over the work is so intense, we can often feel siloed in what we do and feel like there's no one else out there who's quite understanding what we're doing. And I think what we hear is that not only does the membership provide more networking opportunities in your region, but also creates this really beautiful support network nationally. We have had members go and visit each other, continue to build relationships, work with each other to develop new programs and new partnerships. And I think it's that learning community that people really describe as, I found my home within the Guild. I don't have to reinvent the wheel. I have support. I have people I can call on for ideas and inspiration in an ongoing way throughout the year. So these are just a few of our key initiatives. They are initiatives that we work on and really build our programming along throughout the year. They also are initiatives that carry through into our national conference, and much of our conference is organized along these tracks as well. And you'll see as we move through today's discussion, much of our programming and services are aligned in these areas. So arts and education, we have a long history of really helping our members, support our members' partnerships with K through 12 schools, community partnerships, looking at opportunities for and support for our members to engage with other arts organizations in their communities, as well as partners in adjacent sectors like youth development or workforce development. Creative aging is a focus on, of course, serving an older adult population. Leadership development, creative youth development is the intentional integration of arts learning and youth development principles. And teaching artist development is really a focus on amplifying the impact of teaching artists in our communities. And we accomplish all of this work with a range of partners, and these are just a few of the examples of some of the national partners we work with year-round to move this work forward, both in terms of the programs and services we offer members, as well as the more systemic work that we do to increase investment in the field at large. And now I am going to turn things over to you, McAdam. I think we're going to dive into the online tour of some of those services in more detail.
Yeah, great. Let me pull up some of our web pages. Sorry. So if everyone can see our website now, I'm just going to give you a walkthrough of some of our resources that we have for members through our website. And a lot of what we do here, which we really like, is that we kind of can help to create this network of arts educators, like Heather said. But besides kind of being proactive in our advocacy for the field and our work supporting arts education, we can also be reactive in a lot of our programming, reacting to the needs of the field. So we really try to listen to our members. Our strength comes from our members. And the program that we put together are to help support those members and the needs that they've expressed to us, how we can help benefit them and strengthen their organizations. So one of the first things that we'll take you through right now, just really quickly, is our member directory. So this is a listing of all of our members currently at the Guild. It's for members, they can, not only are they listed in here, but they've got the ability to kind of go through and do these kind of deep searches to see who our other members are and kind of create contact lists to reach out to other members, helping create that network. And so just to kind of give you guys a quick walkthrough of it, we've got this search panel here. And as you can see, there are lots of different ways to kind of search. So we've got budget size, so you can select a budget range. You can select disciplines. We can pull up a couple disciplines to look at. You can search by state, by city, and by some of the programs options. And if we just search, as you can see, we then pull up our list of organizations that kind of fall into that category, those search terms. And when you select them, as you can see, you get breakdown budget. Members get to see budget size. Members get to see contact info, which is usually the executive director of an organization or the program director, location, kind of general info like that. So that's our member directory. We are also, just to let you guys know, as we're walking through our current site, we are in the process of working on a new site. And so all of these resources will be a part of our new site as well, but they will be expanded and there will be more information, more resources built around them as well. But next we're going to let you see our member forum. So this is a discussion forum solely for members of the National Guild, where our members can pose questions, start conversations around the kind of distinctive things, experiences that people working at arts education nonprofits experience. It can be it can create a lot of unique experiences that it's nice to have this network to share these experiences with, these kind of odd questions that pop up when you run an arts education organization, something like, as you can see, sealing concrete ceramic studio floors, questions that come up around very distinct ones for arts education. And it's been a great place for both Guild staffs. You can see there's Drew's name there, Drew's posted in here, but also our members to ask questions, like I said, share resources. Here's one that one of our members asked about executive director evaluation tools. So was able to post a question asking about what kind of tools they can use for the board to evaluate executive directors. And we had other members send responses of tools that they had used. So like I said, it's the unique situations that arise around running or working at a community arts education nonprofit. We found a really great way to have that network share those resources with each other. And we're actually very excited about, in our new site, the expanded usability of the member forum. We'll have a lot more options to share specific resources, content, templates, a lot more information we'll be able to share through that. So we're excited about it. Then why don't we jump ahead, Drew, you can talk about the ambassador program.
Great, thanks very much. Before I do that, we had a question from Jen asking if we had members in Canada. That was addressed to Heather. I know we do. Heather, do you have any more, you want to expand on that at all?
Yeah, I actually don't know the number offhand, but I know Royal Conservatory of Music is a member. The National Ballet has been a member. So we do have a handful of members in Canada, as well as the Virgin Islands and a few other countries as well. We are primarily US based, but we do have several members, actually international members as well. And I'd be happy to send Jen that list to you after the call.
Thanks, Heather. And just a reminder to everyone else, you can, as we go, if you have questions, feel free to put it into that chat and we'll get to it as we go. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our ambassador program, which is one of the programs that I manage here at the Guild. So our ambassador program is essentially a way for, as Heather said, we're only 10 people in New York, but we have members all around the country. So we're always trying to think about ways that we can spread out our impact and use the really valuable human resources that we have within the membership of the Guild to create conduits for our members. So our ambassadors are strategically placed all around the country. And some of our ambassadors lead member networks, such as Creative Youth Development, our Alumni network, our Small Schools network, and others are regionally based. And our ambassadors are tasked with holding events, networking opportunities, and essentially connecting with our members throughout the country and providing professional development for them in sometimes a more focused way than the Guild might be able to. You'll see, as you go down a little bit there, McAdam, you'll see some of the recent events that were produced by our ambassadors. So our Arts and Education Network ambassadors produced an event called Social Justice-Based Curriculum in K-12 Partnerships. And this was just for our members, and it was a Zoom chat like this. So it was a national conversation, and it allowed people to come together and see case studies of organizations that are doing K-12 partnerships and specifically rooting their curriculum in principles of social justice. So this was something that was sponsored by the Arts and Education Network. It was run by 2 of our ambassadors, and they're planning on doing a follow-up to that session a little bit later this year. And you can also see some of the other recent events that were produced. Our ambassadors are really exemplary leaders from around the field. They've often been really engaged with the Guild for a long time, and we choose them because we think that they're going to be somebody that's going to be an incredible resource for our members. They're always someone you can go and reach out to, especially if they're nearby. They're always open to having conversations with people and talking to them more about how they can get more deeply engage with the Guild, and things like that. So we really see them as our conduits throughout the country to help us spread the impact of our work. So now if we can go down to our member networks. So these member networks are kind of encompassed within the ambassador program. Each network is led by an ambassador. So currently we have 5 national networks. The Alumni network seeks to raise the profile of work being led by people of color in the arts. So this network is led by Lara Davis and Rodney Camarse, and it really came out of our conference a couple of years ago, the need to have this national network to discuss racial injustice, social injustice that happens in our country in general, but specifically what can be done in the arts education community to combat some of these issues. So they have an event coming up on May 11th, and they've held events regularly in the past to support leaders of color in the arts and to and strengthen the Guild's work around racial justice. And then we have 4 other national networks. Arts and Education Network supports arts educators working in public schools. Collegiate Divisional is for organizations that are a division of a college and their particular needs of having a parent institution, and that is a really vibrant and committed community of people who have specific questions that they need to bounce off of one another. And then continuing down, we have our Creative Youth Development Network, and Creative Youth Development is one of our key initiatives, as Heather mentioned. So this network is a way for us to continue programming around this issue, and also for us to hear from leaders in CYD when we're thinking about programming. And then our Small Schools Network is designed for organizations that have a budget size under 750,000, and some of the specific needs that arise from being an organization with a slightly smaller budget size. And that's led by Leo Van Asten in Wisconsin. And I will just mention that we are planning on launching some more networks this year. One of the upcoming ones is called the White Ally Network, and that's designed to work in concert with the Alumni Network to think about racial justice in the arts more cohesively. So not only supporting leaders of color in the arts, but also thinking about how white allies can be a part of that process. And then we're also planning to launch a network for emerging leaders, so people that are maybe under 35 that are working in arts education, that are thinking about what it means to be a leader now and what kind of their youth can bring to the conversation. It'll be a network to support their work. And then also a network that will be for large schools, so ideally organizations over 2 million budget size. And this will be a way for them to come together and talk about some of the unique challenges of being a large school. So just in general, these networks are, I think, a really robust way for our members to come together across these interest lines. We're always hearing from our members that, as Heather mentioned, they can feel a bit siloed. They can feel like they don't quite know where their community is, where their niche is. And this is a way that we found members have really enjoyed of connecting with people across the country who are focused on a similar topic area that they are. So, you might know everyone kind of in your town, but there might be people all around the country that are doing similar work in public schools that you can really learn from and benefit from their experience. And majority of these events are member only. In some cases, physical events will invite some of the outside community, but the all-night events that are sponsored by our member networks are designed specifically for our member needs, and they are member only. All right, so now I'm gonna pass it along to Heather.
Great, thanks, Drew. So one of the things that we do is, of course, our membership is all over the country. And so while through many of our member networks, we are able to convene, both through our member networks and some of our institutes, convene people regionally, we recognize that your budgets can be thin and that we want to provide continuous learning. And so one of the ways that we do that, in addition to providing information services and resources through our resource center, which we'll talk about in just a moment, is through our online learning series. And so, as I mentioned earlier, we have a number of key initiatives, and what we try to do is look at several of those key initiatives and provide a continuous arc of learning online throughout the year that's also working in concert with our information resources, and that builds on learning and conversation that is often sparked at our national conference, which is in the fall of every year, and we'll talk to you about in just a moment. And so this year, we have a variety of series organized along those key initiatives. The first is a series focused on leadership development, and you can see just a few of the examples there, some which are coming up and some which have passed. All of the recordings of these webinars are for members only, and I'll show you in just a moment where those live, both current and past webinars. We have a series focused on creative youth development, and we are, the Guild is actually the backbone organization of the Creative Youth Development National Partnership. And so this is sort of an unprecedented national movement to catalyze a long-standing community of practice, again, that is focused on intentionally integrating arts learning and youth development principles. Our partners in this work are Massachusetts Cultural Council, Americans for the Arts, and the President's Committee on the Arts and Humanities, and we're in the process of expanding that partnership to 2 or 3 other national partners in youth development. And in concert with our partners, we are developing a year-long series focused on building the capacity of organizations in this area. You can see here, these were the first 3 webinars in the series. These are focused on sort of fundamental skills, and the next one is actually coming up on Monday and is free. And we'll have a series of additional webinars throughout the year focused on areas of where can you find new funding resources in this work, best practices around documenting and communicating the impact of creative youth development programs, and other areas around cross-sector partnerships and really empowering youth leadership within your organization. So that's a jointly produced series. Many of those are for members only. And then finally, we have a series focused here on nonprofit management skills. This is certainly something that all of our members, no matter what stage of their development, always are seeking. These are just a few of the ones that are coming up this year, focused on strategic planning and capitalization and fundraising. But we have a whole archive of webinars that are focused on that as well. And then other webinars focused on arts and education and really the best practices in terms of working in schools, and also focused on some of the current policies around the Every Student Succeeds Act, which is an ever-evolving process. And we were really looking at what that chapter in policy, what impact that has on community arts education. And so, McAdam, just quickly, we can shift folks. This is just an example of some of the webinars in our webinar library. In particular, some of the specific nuts and bolts webinars. Each of these has a recording and oftentimes some follow-up resources. And again, all of the recordings of these webinars, as well as the Zoom chats like the one that you're on right now, which are maybe more conversational and really member-to-member sharing around strategies and best practices, are all recorded in our webinar library and are free for members, and you do need to be a member to access. So it's a wealth of resources that you can tap into whenever it's convenient for you and your staff. As I mentioned also, the other area of programming and service that we offer is our publication program. And many of the publications that we offer are tied to those key initiatives I mentioned. So you'll see a bunch in here around best practices with partnerships with K through 12 schools, engaging adolescents. More Than the Sum is really focused on a variety of different best practices and strategies for partnership, including mergers, cross-sector partnerships, etc. Some of these, because they were supported through foundations, are free to the public, but we also have a number of resources that are members only. And one of the ones that we produce biannually is our benchmarking report, our benchmarking data report. So we are just getting ready to release our latest and greatest benchmarking report. And this past process we've been doing in partnership with Data Arts, which was formerly known as the Cultural Data Project. They have an online system, and many of you are probably familiar with them, that for many, many years have been collecting data, financial data, as well as demographic data on the arts and cultural sector. And they are now working with a number of arts associations to pool data into one spot. And so this benchmarking survey, again, it comes out, we produce a PDF version, but our members actually, those who participate, also have access to the online system to be able to get data throughout the year on the arts and cultural sector. And the report is incredibly valuable to organizations in planning. It provides really critical benchmarking data on what are other organizations of similar budget type paying their faculty, paying their teaching artists, what are their full-time equivalents and administrative staff, and then also looking at who are guild members partnering with? What do those partnerships look like? What are they providing in the way of financial aid? So this is a really valuable benefit to members, and it's also a tool that we use to advocate and to leverage more support for the field more broadly with our partners and funding partners as well. I think Drew is going to show you a little bit about we produce a quarterly newsletter, and I'll also mention, in addition to sort of these larger publications, we also produce a twice monthly e-bulletin that provides really valuable information on funding opportunities, job opportunities, and news from the field. And that also is a members-only resource. Drew?
Thanks, Heather. So let's talk a little bit about Guild Notes, which is our quarterly publication. This is a members-only resource that we send out. And the idea of Guild Notes is that there are specific questions that arts educators are trying to answer on a day-to-day basis, and we can really be a way to collect some of the valuable resources that are out there, bring together voices from the field and put it in a place that can be helpful for our membership. So you'll see, for example, our latest issue, the cover story was by Cynthia Campoy-Brophy, who's at a member organization called Artworks LA. And she was highlighting some of the work that we recently did at a panel in Los Angeles that was centered on creative youth development and how arts organizations that are working in this field can work in a cross-sector way with some partners in youth development, workforce development, social services. And so she really reflected on that panel and some of the things that came out of it in terms of how our members and how the field more broadly can think about how to connect with those cross-sector partners and how to leverage their value as an arts organization in terms of working collaboratively with those partners. So it's just one example of just some of the specific content that comes out of Guild Notes that can be really, really useful and really valuable. In each issue, we'll also have news about the Guild. We'll have news about our members. We really love to spotlight the fantastic work that our members are doing. And you'll see that this cover is a member photo. We use our members' photos in Guild Notes, but also throughout our website and any way that we can to try and promote the fantastic work of our members and the beautiful photos that they take. Then there'll generally be a forum section of Guild Notes that is a way for us to gather some input from our members on a specific issue. So, for example, how to leverage your parents as advocates for your organization. That was a forum that we did recently where we spoke to members across the country and kind of asked them how they're leveraging their parents as advocates for in terms of their students being more engaged, but also in the community, how their parents are advocating for the arts more broadly. So that's just another example. Another feature we have is Leadership Corner. So in this case, it was an article from John McCann, who is a facilitator for our Community Arts Education Leadership Institute, which Heather will talk about in a little bit. But he wrote an article about how you can be a good beginner as a leader and how you can balance thinking about the near term while also sort of looking toward the future and how to sort of disrupt some of the normal ways that you've done things in the past. So this article would only show up in Guild Notes, and it's only going to be available for our members. So we really see it as a great way to take in information from our members about what they need, and then we go out and find the experts who can come back and deliver some really valuable content. Yeah, so with that, I think I'm going to pass it over to Heather.
Oh, Gotta unmute myself here. Oh, I think this is you, McAdam.
Yeah,
yes.
let me just jump in really quick, sorry, and just talk about the Resource Center, because kind of what we've been talking about, both Guild Notes, kind of the publications, things that we do, they're all kind of, our webinars, the recordings, all that, they're all kind of connected to our Resource Center, which gathers and collects for our members all of the different resources we've had. Not only Guild-produced resources like what we've been talking about, but also a kind of curated studies and findings reports from the field that relate to community arts education, as well as sometimes administrative templates and files that our members have helped gather for us as well, that have been really helpful in planning and kind of the basic administrations of organizations. It's great to have those resources all tied together and realize that you don't necessarily have to be recreating these kind of things every time you need them. You can come and use the templates and the resources within our Resource Center. So just to give you guys an overview, this is for our members only, but they're currently broken out into these different sections, these topics that we've got: fundamentals, governance and leadership, community engagement, so on. And within each one as well, if we click on governance and leadership, for example, there are separate tools we've listed. So within each topic, everything is kind of broken out further. And for example, if you click on the roles and responsibilities, here now are the resources tied together as PDFs. Primarily everything is in here as PDFs for our members to download, with the resources, with these studies on these different topics we've gathered throughout here. As you can see all that. Also, just to show you quickly the templates and the sample documents. So we also, within each category, they have these templates and sample documents that our members have found really important. Templates for bylaws, templates for conflict of interest form, the kind of administrative forms that are really helpful for you to be able to, our members to be able to pull out and use as the basis for their creating those documents for themselves. And just to give you a brief overview, we've got everything kind of broken out like I showed you before in these topics, but you also can kind of, there are different ways to search through it. You can go through that homepage, but we've also got everything, all the different topics and subsections broken out here for our members to go through if that view helps better. But we've also got basic search options as well, so you can search by keywords for the types of documents or studies or resources that you're looking for within the Resource Center. Now we'll jump to Heather.
Oh, it's New York.
Yeah, traffic in the background, apologies. We'll jump to Heather to talk about Kaylee.
Of course, yeah. And just to emphasize something that McAdam said, I mean, we understand this is the age of Google, but in addition to the online, the things that are original content of the Guild, what we found is you all are busy, and it's often hard to kind of know where to go to look for things. And so the idea here is, really, as McAdam said, to curate resources that we have heard are, that the field needs, and also to hear from you. So as I think McAdam said, a large portion of the resources in here are sample documents and templates that come from our membership. So that if you are trying to develop a job for an executive director or program director, you can go in and look for samples, or you need a sample organizational chart so you don't have to recreate the wheel. And so some of these are Guild resources, some of these are coming from our membership, and some of these are coming from partner organizations and from our knowledge of the field. So it's a really robust resource, and hopefully makes everyone's job easier with the limited time that you all have. Also, I'll emphasize that your entire staff has access to this. So this, again, would be for anyone you designate wants to receive benefits of the Guild would have access to this. So if you as the director of an organization don't have time to noodle around and see what's in here, but you want your marketing director to come and spend some time and see what marketing resources are there, they have full access to that as well. So we're going on, McAdam, I think we're Leadership Institute, correct? So, so the Guild is for, I think it's going on 8 years now, has been really fortunate to be able to produce a very robust and comprehensive leadership development institute called the Community Arts Education Leadership Institute, or better known as CALE. This is an intensive and transformative 8-month program that runs from May through December of every year. It is for 26 emerging and current leaders in the field of community arts education. We've also had folks that are working in institutions in allied sectors like the Boys and Girls Club of America, who have participated in this, that are looking to develop community arts education programs in their clubs and others. It's a competitive application process. We do offer financial aid. We really do have a strong focus on making sure that each cohort is diverse geographically in terms of programmatic and organizational type, as well as looking at racial and gender diversity. And a program is focused on not so much management skills, which you may find in some programs, but really about looking internally at one's own personal leadership style, building on identifying your strengths as a leader, areas that you define that you want to have to grow. And the focus again is on really developing your ability as leaders to bring your people together, to move things forward. And so there's a lot of time spent on identifying and examining your own core values and how those guide the way that you lead. Again, identifying your strengths, weaknesses, and preferences as a leader. Really a focus, an intentional focus on identifying one's own hidden biases and looking at issues of power and prejudice in leadership and privilege in leadership. And then ultimately you leave with your own leadership development plan. The process kicks off with a 360 review process. So you go in with some understanding of how your team sees you as a leader, and really your own reflection of yourself as a leader. There's a 5-day intensive institute at Bryn Mawr College in Philadelphia. And then following that experience at Bryn Mawr, you are paired with an executive coach who works with you to really delve into the goals that you set during that time that you want to work with post-institute. And there are intentional opportunities for you to continue to connect with your peer network post-institute as well. And then following CALE, we now have 176 alumni from this institute, which is supported by American Express Foundation, and a fairly robust program of activities for alumni. So we gather our alumni at least 4 times a year for video conversations like this one, that are sort of led by faculty of CALE and allow them to continue to enhance their leadership development skills and progress. Each class now has opportunities to continue to connect. And then for the first time ever this year, we are actually going to be producing a leadership alumni retreat in concert with our annual conference. And that's something that we will continue to develop over time. And then also beginning to look at, now we have real concentrations of alumni in various areas of the country. And so we're working very intentionally to continue to connect alumni regionally and build local networks that have gone through the program and can really work together to maximize impact in their local communities. Members receive very deep discounts on tuition to the Institute, and the application deadline for this has passed for this year, but we start accepting applications in the beginning of the year at each year. So it was something we wanted to put on your radar, and it's something that we have a commitment to expanding over the next 5 years. So this is a real signature program of the Guilds. Another signature program of the Guilds is our annual conference. So the annual conference for community arts education this year, it will be held in San Francisco and Oakland. It's November 15th through the 18th. And this is an opportunity. We currently bring together between 700 and 800 arts education leaders from across the country, from a range of institutions, as well as their partners, to really build skills and to deepen their relationships over 3 days. You can see on our website, if you get, this is the URL for this microsite is www.communityartsed.org. And I would say that, as I mentioned earlier, that the conference is organized by track, many of which mirror those key initiatives I mentioned earlier in the call. And it really is a combination of really robust opportunities to network. There are opportunities, all of the member networks that Drew described meet at the conference. They also play a very significant role in helping us develop the conference. So it's a combination of those networking opportunities, inspirational plenaries from really expert speakers and trainers in the field. We do a day of a deep dive pre-conference institutes the first day, that's November 15th. And then the breakout sessions are really, again, organized by those tracks in leadership development, creative youth development, etc., to really provide a continuous and progressive learning arc throughout the conference. There's opportunities to see exemplary work in Bay Area institutions this year, and we are currently accepting proposals for those breakout sessions. The deadline is next week, April 26th. We really encourage you to propose a session, and there's detailed guidelines on how to do so there. You're welcome to reach out to me or any of us here at the Guild if you have an idea that you want to kick around. I'm happy to talk with you about that. And there you can see here on that red widget off to the right there is a link to last year's conference program if you just want to get a sense of the quality and scope of the speakers in the sessions last year as inspiration. I would say if you're thinking of joining the Guild, or if you are a new member and you join, this is an opportunity. If you yourself, or you can send a staff member to the conference, is probably the best opportunity to get a sense of how to tap in to the programs and services of the Guild. You'll get a real sense of the conversations that are happening amongst our membership and nationally. Very meaningful opportunities to connect with your peers and start building those relationships that you can continue to scaffold as you get more involved with the Guild as a member. So if you are joining the Guild, or if you're thinking of joining the Guild and aren't sure, I really encourage you to think about attending the conference. It's really the best opportunity to connect with the learning community and get a sense of the programming. And because we feel so strongly in that way, new members not only get actually 25% off their annual dues for their first year of joining the Guild. So we want you to feel like you have a chance to try out membership and really see what you and your team are going to be able to get out of that. So we offer 25% off your annual dues. But we also offer 50% off your first conference registration. And that's 50% off of the member rate. So when you do the math, it's very, we try to make it very accessible for new members to try us out and to get a sense of what we offer and who is involved in the learning community and what types of conversations are active within the membership. And again, McAdam or any of us can provide more details on that after the call. I think we just wanted to share just a brief view of what's coming up programmatically. These are some of the webinars and things that were mentioned as we went along that are fast approaching and we wanted to make sure you were aware of. But I think ultimately we want to just open it up for questions and let you all share what's on your mind. If you had any questions about the particular programs and services that we shared, or just about the Guild's role in general, or how to get involved, we're all ears. So I think everyone is muted, so feel free to unmute yourself to ask your question, or you can certainly type it in the chat box and we can ask it for you, but there's not so many of us on the call that I think if you just want to unmute yourself and ask, that might be easiest. Any questions?
Bueller.
Okay. How do we determine the member fee for our organization was a question. It's a great question. So our, McAdam, I don't know if you're able to share the screen on the join page.
Yeah, give me 1 second if you want to
I'll talk
for a
and
minute.
We'll just show you the dues chart. So again, the membership is primarily an organizational membership, and dues are calculated on a sliding scale based on your organization's current operating expenses. And as I said earlier, there are really 2 categories of membership internally. There are independent organizations, so that means all that you do is arts education. Your organization is an independent nonprofit organization. But we also internally have what we call divisional organizations. And those are, if you are a community school within a larger college or university, or you are an arts education division of a local arts agency, museum, performing arts organization, so that your arts education division is part of a larger parent organization. We handle the dues slightly differently. So here is the sliding scale. So if you're an independent organization, this is of course based on your current operating expenses as an arts education organization. If you are a division of a larger parent organization, we base your dues on the division's budget for arts education, not the parent organization. We get a lot of questions around that. So if you are a division of a huge museum, we are not basing your membership on the museum's operating expenses, but rather the arts education division's budget for the current operating expenses. So this gives you a sense of the dues. Again, and of course you would get 25% off these dues for your first year as well.
And just to reiterate too, I think you might have mentioned it, Heather, but all staff, all faculty, your board, everyone associated with your organization has access to all of the member benefits as well. So this is just for the organization, and then that using the organization as the umbrella, all of your staff, all of your teaching artists, faculty, they will have access to all of the member benefits as well. They can use all of the resources through the site, get free access to our online learning series, and get the discounts to conference as well.
And there was another question of how do we define an education department within a performing arts center? If you are providing what we say high quality arts learning opportunities, if you're providing classes, lessons, workshops, working in partnership with schools, and that's the division, that is what we define. So oftentimes you have a community or outreach division, or an arts education division, or an education department of a larger parent institution. It goes by many names, but if you feel that you are running programs focused on arts education that are part of a larger parent institution, that's essentially how we define it. And our full membership is for nonprofit organizations or government agencies, and our education affiliate membership is for for-profit organizations.
A question, oh, sorry.
No,
Looks like a question came in from Rachel. Have any collegiate members granted their alumni access to the Guild resources?
Rachel,
question.
could you clarify the question? Do you mean the collegiate divisional members there?
Yeah, I'm having trouble with my video. Can you hear me?
Okay.
Yeah,
I can hear you.
Okay, if I did my video feed, I wasn't able to see your video. I think it's my internet connection, so I apologize. Yeah, I was just wondering if any, I believe I'm in Cleveland, obviously. I think like Baldwin Wallace College is a member of the Guild, if they still are. Do you know if, you mentioned board members, faculty all have access to any of the alumni networks? If there's like an alumni association, do those members also get access to the guild resources, or is that a little too broad?
Yeah, that tends to be a little broad, but I'll give you an example. We did have New England Conservatory, the alumni that had gone through their program, their El Sistema program. They were really interested in connecting those individuals who, many of whom were now leading or at leadership positions within nonprofit organizations or divisions, connecting them to the guild. And so they worked in partnership with us to offset their membership for that. So we've been able to be creative. Part of it is that, it's also hard sometimes we don't have a rule for who you want to affiliate with your organization, but oftentimes if it's a teaching artist if there's a lot of churn there, it's hard to administer the benefits to those individuals if they're only there for a year or so. So with alumni, I think we would want to work with you to figure out what is the best way to get them involved and then help them sustain their involvement over time.
Yep, that makes perfect sense. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we like to include everybody. One of the issues I know I've run into in cleaning up our database is, especially with the kind of turnover of teaching artists that Heather mentioned, sometimes organizations come to us and say, hey, this person hasn't taught here for a year. You can stop sending them the newsletter. So we like to be inclusive. We want everyone involved with your organization to be able to take advantage of the memberships.
One thing we didn't really emphasize, and that I wanted to make sure we mentioned to you all too, is certainly all of the programs and services that we showed you today are focused on providing leadership development, professional development, networking, and information services, as well as the work that we're doing to advocate more broadly for the field. But one of the things that we hear from our members, which I think is something worth pointing out, is that by being a member of the Guild, you also get increased visibility for your organization. So we have had members now who have gone on to get major national awards, establish relationships with funders that they did not have relationships with prior to, as well as develop really robust partnerships with, regional organizations and whatnot through their involvement in the Guild, whether it's that they led a session at our conference, they've become involved as ambassadors, we've been able to publish their news in Guild notes and on the website and in our e-bulletin. And those publications go out to nearly 5,000 individuals, not only practitioners in the field, but funders, researchers, and other stakeholders. So when you share your news with us, when you get involved in the programming, it is a national platform for the work that you're doing, the work that you and your partners are doing. And we have seen really tremendous growth and actually opportunities. I mean, one thing I think Drew mentioned is that the ambassador program, that's not only an opportunity for us to be able to provide more programming in concert with our ambassadors, but many of those ambassadors went through our leadership program, our Leadership Institute, have now become ambassadors and have gone, in many cases, from leading programs to now leading systems within, big state arts agencies and other things. And so it's a real catalyst for both personal leadership as well as organizational growth. I don't know if you want to say anything more about that, Drew, but
I could, but we actually had one more question come in. Maybe we could get to that before
right.
So Teresa was asking about, it looks like our focus is directed towards larger arts organizations. What is the involvement level for local community-based? Actually, probably about 52% or so of our membership are organizations that are below $750,000 as their budget range. We have members that have $5,000 a year for their budget, and we do have members that go up into the millions. But I would say that the core of our membership really is that community-based arts organizations, and that's where our history comes from, is supporting that work. One of our still most popular publications is just the 10 steps to starting a community school of the arts. So it's really those initial sparks that lead to the creation of the school, and then also the core resources that are really valuable for working with your board and just making sure everything is in place to set up a proper foundation for growth. So I think we do really put a lot of weight behind supporting those organizations that are a little smaller and trying to find their footing, either to continue to stay small because they want to stay agile and adaptive, or because they want to grow and prosper as they move forward. I don't know if you want to add anything else to that, Heather.
No, only that actually, I think 42% of our members have budgets under 500,000. So so it really is sort of split. And in recognizing that need, last year we had an entire day of our conference dedicated to small budget organizations, and a deep dive institute on that. We do a lot of programming around that. And because of that need, as Drew mentioned, we also launched a small schools member network that is particularly focused on networking for small budget organizations and professional development and resource sharing. So we'd be happy to follow up with you, Teresa, later to show you some of the specific resources in that area.
And I'd also say, you can hear from us, but if any of you are, considering membership, we'd be happy to connect you with an organization that's similar in terms of discipline or size. And they can, sometimes you need to hear it from a colleague that is working on the same things that you are in terms of what the benefit has been for them. So I or Heather McAdam would be happy to link anybody here with a comparable organization that can sort of give you the story of their path with the Guild.
Great. And I think we are at time. So thank you all for joining us, staying with us, for your thoughtful questions. And please do follow up. If you have any questions that bubble up, or you want to talk more about any of the discounts or opportunities, please reach out. We're happy to chat. And thanks so much. Have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.